السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. Last night we started Surah Al-E-Imran in our Taraweeh, and this surah can be seen almost as a sequel to Surah Al-Baqarah. There are numerous surahs in the Quran that are paired up. They are complemented or completed or enhanced by another surah. So for example, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ and قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, these two surahs are paired up, and one is a completion of the other. Alam Nashrah is the completion of Wad-Duha. And there are other surahs as well, Al-Anfal and At-Tawbah. So Al-Baqarah and Al-E-Imran are completions of each other. They are a pair of surahs. This is why their fadila has been mentioned together in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that read them both. Iqra'u Zahrawain. Read them frequently. فَإِنَّهُمَا يَأْتِيَانِ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ وَتَأْتِيَانِ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. They will come on the day of judgment in the form of clouds. غَمَامَتَانِ. They will be these clouds that will cover, enshroud the people, and these two surahs will debate, argue, dispute in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the person who used to recite them frequently. Now, who is Al-E-Imran? The family of Imran. So Imran, to put it simply, is the maternal grandfather of Isa alayhi salam. And his wife, when she was expecting, made a pledge, a vow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever child Allah gives her, she is going to make that child waqf. She is going to dedicate that child for the khidmah of Bayt al-Maqdis. And this was her intention, and she kept praying this whole time, "Oh Allah, accept this intention of mine." So as the time got closer and her du'as also continued, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted this dua. But when she gave birth, it was a girl. And then she said, "Oh Allah, this is a girl. What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to dedicate a girl for the khidmah of Bayt al-Maqdis? If it was a boy, it made sense. He would stay there, study there, and then serve there." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered by saying that وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى, that males cannot be like females. There are things, there are works that are taken from females that cannot be taken from males. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed that by making her the mother of Isa alayhi salam, and made her the source of the miracle of the birth of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. So this is in summary Al-E-Imran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises them in this surah. He says He has selected Adam alayhi salam and Nuh alayhi salam and the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam and the family of Imran. There is mention in the beginning of this surah of the kinds of verses in the Quran. Two general classifications of verses. This is a very important theme in understanding the Quran, that there are those verses that are the muhkamat. And muhkam, it means those that are clear. Their meaning can be understood simply by understanding the translation of the verse. There are those verses in the Quran that are extremely clear, and there is no need to go into interpretations of that verse. It's self-evident. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. This is from the muhkamat. There is no need to look for another interpretation. Is there an allegory here? Is there a metaphor here? Is there a figure of speech here? There is no need to go into those discussions. Yes, what we're supposed to do is focus on what has been said and contemplate on that message, take it and implement it. And this, in fact, makes up the greater part of the Quran. The greater part of the Quran are these muhkamat. these ayat that are self-evident. And all humanity has to do is take those meanings and apply them. Then there is the smaller portion of verses which are called Mutashabihat. And the literal meaning of Mutashabihat is that their meanings can very easily be confused. Ishtibah means that you're not sure if it's this one or this one, where there are a multitude of possibilities and each possibility resembles the other. So to interpret that verse, there could be one possibility, two, three, maybe more, and each possibility resembles each other, so they're called Mutashabihat. So what about these verses? The first thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that people that have a tendency to deviate, their tendency is to veer off of the straight path. Zayg means to bend, to turn. So they have this tendency to always form wrong conclusions, go off on a tangent, get away from what the point of the discussion is. So, فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ. Their focus is channeled all towards the mutashabihat. Why? Either they want to stir up trouble. They want to stir up trouble. How do they stir up trouble? Causing doubts in the minds of people. Well, how do you know? That's what it is. How do you know? And today this is a flag that's waved around by so many people. Brother, there's room for interpretation on this. No, there could be another interpretation of this. Well, that depends. Is there really another valid interpretation or not? Not everything has another interpretation. Some things do, some things don't. And there are some things that no one knows the interpretation of, or very few people know the interpretation of it. So one of the intentions of these people, and this is to be very straightforward and frank with you, these are those people that bring up complicated and confusing things and present them in front of the awam. The very highly philosophical discussions from the Quran, from hadith, presented in front of the general public who has read something else. They've been taught something completely different. And what they've been taught is actually correct. What they were taught is actually correct. It was actually justified. It was actually being passed down for some 14 centuries. But someone will come and say, you know what, there might be another interpretation for this. And you should start thinking about this. And they throw the masses into confusion. And then the poor masses, they don't know who to turn to get clarification. Well, we heard this, but now all of a sudden we're hearing this. Who's going to tell us what the right answer is? And by doing this, what those people who bring up these confusions in the masses, what they do is they build a following. That's it. They build a following, they build a loyal group of followings, and they make themselves appear like they're the ones who are the only people advanced enough or enhanced enough in their intellect to figure things out that no one else, those foolish scholars of the past, they weren't able to figure this out, but guess what? I've got it now. And I'm going to share it with you. And there are others who might not be looking to stir trouble, but they're trying to find the meaning of something that they themselves are not prepared to understand. They do not have the ability, the competency, or the aptitude to understand that. And there are things in the Quran that not everyone will be able to understand. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. No one knows its correct designated meaning other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now here, there's a very interesting discussion that takes place amongst the mufassirin and amongst the fuqaha. And this is reflected actually in the way this verse is recited. Where do you stop in this verse? So some said, and this is based on the qira'ah of various sahaba, they used to stop here. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. No one knows its interpretation other than Allah, and stop there. The continuation of the verse, وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ. And what about those who have great knowledge? What about those who have great knowledge? Do they know the meaning? No. They say, we believe in it. كُلٌّ مِّنْ عِنْدِ رَبِّنَا. It's all revealed by Allah. We believe in it as it is. This is where they will say, Allahu a'lamu bi muradihi. Allah knows what He means. So the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses terms that could be attributed to a human being. He speaks about the eye of Allah, the hand of Allah. So what is this referring to? Amanna bi. We believe in it as it is. That's the end of it. And this was the inclination of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, and this was the inclination of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah from the jurists, that not everyone has to understand every fine item of the Quran, but what's more important is that you believe in what Allah has said. And that's it. But other jurists like Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh, and this was based on the recitation of other Sahaba, they continued, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. And they would pause there. No one knows its correct interpretation but Allah, and those that are rasikh, they are firmly rooted. The actual translation of rasikh, they are firmly rooted in their knowledge. So that opens up the possibility that there could be people who, yes, who do know it. But while they understand it, they're saying, Amanna bih. We believe in it. How does this affect you and I? This affects you and I in a couple of ways. The first thing is, let us dedicate the greater portion of our lives to understanding the greater portion of the Quran, which is the muhkamat. If you were to spend your whole life understanding the muhkamat, and that includes the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your whole life would finish and you would still not get even close to understanding all of them and applying all of them. The second thing is, when it comes to something that is from the Mutashabihat, don't try to figure it out all by yourself, and don't listen to someone who says, everyone is wrong, I have understood what this means. That should serve as a message to you that I need to stay away from this person. Someone who says the whole ummah has not understood it but I have, or someone who's going against what the whole ummah has been saying all along, this person has actually, they have disqualified themselves from that discussion. So moving on, this was a major theme in the surah, so I spent a little bit more time on it. But let's talk a little bit more about the relationship of this surah to Al-Baqarah, since they are paired. So both begin with Alif Lam Mim, so they're similar in that sense. Both end with some really powerful du'as. At the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, we heard some really powerful and important du'as. Surah Al-E-Imran also ends with some great du'as. And both of them talk about the ummah. They talk about the status of the ummah. And in Surah Al-Baqarah, we were referred to as the middle ummah, the ummah of moderation, or the middle ummah, the ummah of balance, the ummah of balance. And one meaning, one tarjama of ummatan wasatan is the ummah of excellence. And in Surah Al-E-Imran, we are referred to as kuntum khayra ummah. You are the best of nations. And they share their virtues. When was Surah Al-Imran revealed? There are four, you can take this surah and divide it into four major sections. Four types of topics and discussions have taken place here, and each section of verses was revealed in a different era. So the opening of the surah, the first 32 verses of this surah were revealed soon after the battle of Badr. So Surah Al-Baqarah, or many parts of Surah Al-Baqarah, were revealed before Surah Al-Imran. So the first 32 verses were revealed after the battle of Badr. Then from verses 33 to 63, these 30 verses were revealed at a later occasion probably in the 9th year of Hijrah, after a delegation of Christians came to the Prophet ﷺ. The Christians of Najran came to visit the Prophet ﷺ, and in that background, in that context, 30 verses were revealed, and this is a very engaged discussion about Isa alayhi salam, about the beliefs of Christianity, about the beliefs of Muslims in regards to those things. And verses 64 to 120, many Mufassirin exegetes believe that this was also revealed in the earlier time of this surah, so probably after the first 30 verses 64 to 120 would have been revealed. And the last part of this surah, which is about 80 verses, the last 80 verses from 121 to verse 200, this was revealed after the Battle of Uhud. So aside from the discussion on Christianity, Isa alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam status, Zakaria alayhi salam in his story with Yahya alayhi salam, and Sayyidah Maryam alayha ridwan's story, aside from that, there is a great deal of discussion on the Battle of Uhud. Now, quickly go over some of the things that the surah is telling us while doing a kind of a critical analysis of what happened at the Battle of Uhud. I'm not going to go over the incident of Uhud, but here are some of the lessons. And Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah rahimahullah, he mentions these as lessons extracted from this story in his book Zadul Ma'ad. So, the first thing is that the believers learned the negative consequence of disobeying Allah's Prophet ﷺ. That whenever they, even as small groups, turn away from the direct instructions of Nabi ﷺ, there will always be loss. And this was to serve as a lesson for everyone to come after that. That yes, the Prophet is kind and gentle and all of those things, but disobeying him is a very serious matter. It brings losses in dunya and akhirah. The second thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite wisdom has put together a system where His messengers, His prophets alayhimu salatu wasalam, and their followers, they sometimes won the battle of the day and sometimes lost the battle of the day. There were victories and there were losses, but the outcome was always in their favor. The outcome was always that which they had aimed for, what they had made efforts and sacrifices for. And during this process of losses, it was established who the true believers are. That are these people that are joining in this effort that the Prophet is making? Are they genuine? And are they about the mission? Or are they about the victories and the benefits and the spoils of war? So believers were separated from disbelievers. If it was all about victory, then even people who were disbelievers would want to be a part of that. The second thing is that this provided a bit of a sifting process for those who acted like believers but weren't. This is that tabaqa, that class of people that the Quran calls the people of nifaq. That they were acting like Muslims, they were tagging along with the Muslims, but they had no sense of actual belief. They were there for the benefits, but when they saw losses, it would force them to walk away, and that's exactly what happened in all of these instances. Constant victory and unconditional victory, it brings inside a person a sense of arrogance and an oppressive attitude, where they feel they are the ones who are doing everything, and this attitude of being indestructible, undefeatable, and and being an absolute power. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like this attitude. He does not like this arrogance. So this was a corrective measure. And the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a status for someone, but that person cannot reach that status. The status is very high, but the person cannot reach that status merely by merit of their good deeds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts them through trials and tribulations and through losses, and through when they bear those losses and endure them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevates their rank. The other thing is that if there was only victory and there was no loss of life, then there would be no concept of shahada, of martyrdom. And martyrdom is something very noble, very sacred in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to this effect, both the surahs, Al-Baqarah and Al-E-Imran, talk about the martyrs being alive with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this case, they are alive and they are being sustained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another one of the outcomes of Uhud is that it gives the people that won, the false impression that what they're doing is right. And when that happens, they go and make further mistakes and further errors, and those errors become a source of their ultimate end. So the surah begins with glorification and praise for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It ends on the same note, glorification and praise for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His wonders in His makhlooq. And as I mentioned, it completes and concludes with an appeal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a seeking of guidance, that, "O Allah, do not let us go astray after you have guided us." And asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the best in dunya, for the best in akhirah, and to be joined with the pious slaves of Allah, those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with. May Allah azza wa jal enable us to take these lessons and apply them and understand them. This is what will be recited tonight in Taraweeh. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in.